Hello everyone. So in this tutorial we're going to be looking at sculpting the hands and arms in ZBrush. As always, it is essential that you have good reference material, such as concepts and photographic images to observe throughout completing your work. The first and most important phase of sculpting should be to establish the general shape or silhouette from all perspectives. This will naturally lead us into the second phase of checking the scale and proportion of each section. So I've created a new document and I'm going to drag out a 3D cube into the canvas area. This is going to be the palm of my character's hand. So I'm going to convert it to a polymesh 3D and squash it down slightly in the side view, just using the move tool. This is already a good time to refer back to your reference photos. I like to work with these docked on my other screen, but if you are only using one screen, then I still strongly advise having them visible whilst you are sculpting. Otherwise you are just relying on your visual memory as opposed to observation. My character is going to be female, but she is quite toned and somewhat muscular, so there will be some slight alterations to some of the reference images you are seeing here. The most important lesson I can give in this video is that you use ratios as a way of validating your work at all times. This can be done with any body part you like. You just have to use your eye and check how many times a certain section of the anatomy goes into another. For example, here I am noticing that the length of the palm goes exactly into the length of the middle finger up until the third knuckle, otherwise known as the distal phalange joint. And I'm also noticing that this same measurement goes into the width of the palm across the knuckles exactly once. This already helps me to avoid making the palm too long or too short. I'm now going to begin shaping the basic anatomy into the palm around the carpals, tendinous gap, and the hypophoner eminence. It is always good to compare several hands to anatomy diagrams and make sure that what you are identifying is in the right place. Be sure to dynamesh your sculpt regularly to avoid any unwanted stretched out geometry. I'm now going to start adding in the joints of the fingers by appending, manipulating and duplicating cubes as subtools. I find that this is a more time efficient way of developing the individual phalangeal joints. Once again, you should always be checking the ratios in your reference material. And I'm noticing that the first joint of the finger fits into the distance between the knuckle of the first finger and the thumb on this image. Now I know that the width of the palm fits into the entire length of the first finger, so I'm going to continue to append and develop shapes into that finger by merging and dynameshing. Once I've roughly finished up one finger, I can simply duplicate it and make simple adjustments for the other fingers and the thumb of the hand. I like to make full use of the move, scale and rotate functions for this step. Masking off and isolating certain areas can also help to add some variation. I like to sculpt the fingers in a slightly bent position as opposed to being completely extended or flexed. This will help when it comes to rigging later in the development of this character. And yes, you guessed it, always use your reference material. I'm now at a stage where I can merge and dynamesh this into one subtool. I'm going to move into the second and third stage of the hand and start adding in some of the muscles and definitions. I like to try and avoid using the smooth tool too often for this, as it can give quite an unrealistic look and slow down my workflow. I'm creating a divot here for where the nails will go by using the mask brush and pulling out the geometry slightly. Using additional reference images, I'm now going to move into the anatomy of the arm. I like to append and shape cubes in a similar way to how I completed the fingers. Once again, you should always be looking to compare ratios within the form. Here I am looking at the key bulges and squashes around the elbow joint and shoulder and wrist. It is good to refer back to your biology reference images and be aware of the key muscle insertion points. The biggest mistake here is to dwell on one area for too long. It's best to make a few big marks in one area and then move on to another. I would advise not merging the arm and the hand into the same subtool for now. Keep them separate, as this will help when retopologizing later in the pipeline. I personally find that the muscles of the arm all flow into one another at a slight angle towards the thumb from the tip of the shoulder. This remains constant as well when the arm twists. The size and shape of the muscles will vary from reference to reference, so it is key that you check on the relationships between each group. Everyone overemphasizes the bicep, but really the bicep only takes up a small portion of the arm. I would argue that more attention should be paid to the deltoids, triceps, brachialis, and the flexors and extensors of the forearms. From here on out, it is very much a case of using your observation and artistic merit to accomplish the result needed. Keep rotating the subject, take regular breaks to refresh your eyes, and never be afraid to make big changes. So that's it. This arm is now ready for some further detail in the later phases, but they'll be accomplished once the rest of the character is sculpted. So thanks for watching this tutorial, post your questions, and I'll catch you again next time.